Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Now, just recently I did a video picking out Elton John's top 20 tracks from the 1990s. Now, you were kind enough to send in your own suggestions, and amongst those suggestions were quite a few tracks which I haven't reviewed before, sort of rare cuts, B-sides, that sort of thing. So I thought I'd just round up those now and give my view on each of them. I've also added them to my Elton John Rarities playlist on YouTube, which you can find linked below this video. Now, the first song to look at is Suit of Wolves. Now, this came out in 1991 and was a B-side to The One. So it very much sounds like that selection of music. There's a lot of synthesizers in this. The bass reminded me a little bit of Shoot Down the Moon, actually, from the Ice on Fire album. The song seems to be about a predatory lover. What does he want? There's the drumming to me is very 90s sounding, as you would expect from the 90s, but it's pretty typical of that time. A little bit on the heavy side, a little bit of kind of hammering away, and it's very much of that time. The whole thing reminds me a little bit of an Alison Moyet song, actually. Some of the cuts she was coming out with around that time. So this is an okay one. It's quite a long track, this, nearly 6 minutes, bit of a slow burn. Some people like it. I say it's about average for me, 4 marks. Now, the next one on your list was a track called Elaborate Lives, which is from the Aida musical, which Elton wrote a version of with lyrics by Tim Rice. This is another long song, nearly 6 minutes. The singer seems tired of having mixed up lives, wants to simplify things. The rhythm changes part way through the verse, which some may find a little bit uncomfortable. But it builds to a chorus. It's a little bit of a slow burn, I've found, and not especially catchy, this one. It's kind of in the vein of Circle of Life from The Lion King, but I regard that as one of his greatest tracks, certainly from the 1990s, but perhaps not quite so accomplished. And the problem, of course, with picking out songs from the middle of a musical is we don't really know exactly the context of what the characters are doing unless we're very familiar with the story. So it's more difficult for the track to kind of stand alone, as it were. Anyway, I think this is an average track for Elton. Going to award it 4 marks. Now, the next rarity to look at is Some Other World. This is a 1992 song from the soundtrack of Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. Lyrics by Bruce Roberts. Now, I'm not familiar with this music, got to say, or with this film, although I'd certainly like to check it out. This seems to have quite an environmental message in this. It's upbeat, it's quite catchy. It's about we don't live in some other world, we live in this one, so we've got to kind of take care of it. So a pretty important message there. The kind of the feeling of it is a little bit like Philadelphia Freedom with the use of the orchestra there, I felt. Kind of an upbeat number with orchestral backing. It's not especially memorable, this, although there are some pleasant chord changes in it and it's quite easy on the ear. So certainly one worth checking out. I'm going to rate it as a fairly good song, actually, this one. Going to give it 5, and I'm going to be listening to this one quite a bit more, I think. Okay, the next one is I Know Why I'm in Love, a 1997 recording, which was the B-side of Recover Your Soul. So this is an outtake from the Big Picture sessions. I'm a big fan of Recover Your Soul. I really like that track a lot. It's a classy pop song. Now, this one is a love song, kind of 1950s sort of feel almost to it, and an absolutely delightful verse on this and a delightful bridge. But then there is a massive key change that takes us in to the refrain. And it's a bit like 2 songs in one, this one. The first one is really delightful, but then we get this kind of it's almost like the song The Big Picture, which is, I'm not a huge fan of because there's such a contrast between the verse and the refrain. Different keys, different kind of pace to the whole thing. And it almost feels like 2 songs crammed together. So it's a bit unfortunate that it's got that because it started off really promisingly. But around that time, The Big Picture, Elton was doing a lot of this thing of writing the refrain in a different key to the verse. Because sometimes it does work and sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, this one I think is okay. I'm going to say an average song and give it 4 out of 10. Next track is The Messenger. This is again from Aida. It's actually sung by Lulu on the CD of the musical. Lyrics, of course, by Tim Rice. It starts off with kind of a slow meandering verse with a lot of synthesizer use. Builds up to quite a nice refrain, again taking on a slightly different rhythm. Some interesting harmonies going on there, quite a satisfying song, and Elton does come in with a second vocal on the refrain, so he does appear on this. Again, of course, it's out of context, so again, I have seen this show on stage, so if you've seen the show, these songs will be a little bit more meaningful for you. Taken out of context, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to follow the exact message of the song. Anyway, I'm going to award this one fairly good and give it 5 marks. Now, Big Man in a Little Suit is a 1997 recording, lyrics by Bernie Taupin. This is also from the Big Picture Sessions. This is a heavy rocker with prominent guitars. It doesn't really seem to be making much of a statement, this one, and it's a bit hard to work out what it's about. Maybe it's about pomposity, perhaps somebody thinking they're a little bit more important than they actually are. Again, it's got a key change for the refrain, which comes in. It's a bit of a shock to the system. Maybe overlong as well, about 4.5 minutes. Relatively forgettable, this one. I'm going to give it an average of 4 marks. Next one is a 1994 recording. This is an outtake from the Made in England sessions called Red, lyrics by Bernie Taupin. This is an upbeat ballad. Is it about putting the colour back into your life? Maybe it is. Reminds me a little bit of the kind of Spirit of Healing Hands, which is a very uplifting track and no popular with the fans. The harmonies on that, going with the melody, it's a little bit like Sweethearts on Parade, which is a slower ballad, of course, and a very nice one indeed. So I enjoy the verse on this. The refrain doesn't quite live up to expectations, although there's no sort of striking key change to shock us there. So it's okay, this one, maybe a little bit on the long side. I'm going to say it's a fairly good track, and I give this 5 out of 10. Now the next track is I Swear I Heard the Night Talking from 1990. This was written for the To Be Continued collection, Bernie Taupin lyrics. I know this one is very popular with my subscribers. Quite a few people identified this one as one of their favourite tunes from the 1990s. It's about somebody whose kind of night is disturbed and they're kind of called out into the New York nightlife. Can they resist it? Well, probably not, and they do go out and enjoy the experience. It's uplifting. It's got a nice pacey verses. The refrain is catching and works quite well. It all fits together quite well, this one. And I reckon this should have been on one of Elton's studio albums. I don't know where it could have fitted in. Maybe you can suggest that, or indeed in place of what. But it's a pretty decent track, this one, apart from, of course, the rather annoying 1990s drumming, which just keeps thudding away, and that's a little bit irritating. But overall, pretty good, this one. I'm going to say good track, 6 out of 10. Now, Wake Up Wendy was a song that Elton and Bernie wrote for an edition of South Park, which is an American sort of grown-up cartoon series. This one came out in 1998. Elton made a guest appearance on the show, presumably a cartoon version of him. This sort of mid-pace rocker tells the story what's going on. I don't know who Wendy is. I've never seen the show. I gather it's really good. Anyway, some interesting lyrics in this. A girl dressed like a cemetery, Bernie's written there. That's a fascinating line, isn't it? Reasonable hook on the refrain of this. It's a very pleasant listen. Elton in good rocking mode here. I'm going to say fairly good track. 5 out of 10. Next one is No Valentines, a 1996 track, again from Elton and Bernie. This appears on the US Love Songs compilation. It's about the end of a love affair. Nice bit of acoustic guitar here on a solo break. And it's quite pleasant, this one. It's a slow burn. It's a ballad. I quite enjoyed listening to this one, and it is growing on me. Reminds me a little bit of the Stevie Wonder song I Just Called to Say I Love You. Same sort of sentiment and pace to it, perhaps. The 90s drumming again, that just grates a little bit on this, and it's about kind of the lies we write on Valentines and not really meaning them. But it's quite a pleasant listen, this one. See what you think. I reckon it's a fairly good track, and I would rate that as a 5. Now, How I Know You is a song, again, from Aid in 1999. And there's a piano demo of this on YouTube. Elton sounding a really good voice on this one. It's in a minor key. And again, the issue with this is because it's a snippet of a much bigger story. It's kind of story heavy in the lyrics, and it doesn't make that much sense when you remove it from the musical. But it's a decent ballad. There is a version by James Taylor on the CD of this one. I would say it's it's an average track, and I'll give it a 4. Made for Me is a 1990 song from the Sleeping with the Past sessions. Lyrics again by Bernie. This seems to be about obsession, pleading to your love interest. I'm the answer to your dreams. There's a driving 90s rhythm on this. It's not a bad track at all. Zips along at a fair pace. Quite a pleasant listen. Elton again sounding good. So I'm going to say it's a fairly good track and give that one 5. Medicine Man from 1990 is the B-side of You Gotta Love Someone. We've got kind of an electronic soundscape for this one. Reminds me a little bit of the track Go It Alone, which I've reviewed previously. And there's a gospel feel to the chorus on this. We all need a medicine man. That's the message of it. Not sure how we can be cured, but maybe we need to be cured in some way. It's okay, this one. Probably best as a B-side. I'm going to say it's an average track and give it a 4. Right, well, I've saved the best till last because the last one to talk about is a song called For Wanting You, which is a 1996 recording. Some outstanding lyrics here from Bernie Taupin. This is sung by Marianne Faithfull on her album Vagabond Ways. Now, that might be worth checking out. It's a lilting, haunting opening to this. It's in a minor key. It's about a love gone wrong, possibly with a hint of domestic abuse in here, and lines such as who was really using who. It sounds a little bit like a Leonard Cohen song. It's slow, it's in that minor key, it's introspective. Not that all of his are like that, of course, but the whole thing is rather beautiful, and it articulates the idea of a love gone wrong really powerfully. And I would urge you, out of all these tracks, actually, if you only listen to one, go and listen, if you can, to this one and see what you think. It'd be interesting to see if Elton has ever sung this one himself, because it's very much in the character that Marianne Faithfull is portraying in this song. But this is a classy listen, and thank you to whoever suggested this one, because I wouldn't have come across this otherwise. I reckon it's a very good track, and I'm going to give that 7 out of 10. So thanks for all your suggestions. Lots of interesting tracks there I've discovered again. So I'll be adding those to my spreadsheet. If you know of any more obscure ones for the 90s, please let me know. 1 or 2 people suggested El Dorado tracks, but that was from 2000, so I'll be looking at that in the next decade. Thanks very much. Subscribe if you want to. Don't forget, we're still standing.